Today I'm going to be talking about people's bad analysis of crime statistics. I'm going to wait till the 1 minute mark before I get going fully. And just check out the breaking news segment I just did on NWERE. It's about an issue related to Atlanta's water supply. Let me share the stream. I actually like this cover I came up with. Yeah. I'm going till at least the 70-minute mark. That is the Omenala, the practice here on UGOJI. Means the black eagle. Thank you for joining me. I see I've registered viewers. Every view is a blessing. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please also comment if you wish. Every comment is a blessing. I read them at my discretion. Let me get stuff out of my pocket. Probably off my stand or something. Got a notification I got a new subscriber. Thank you very much to that subscriber. And I see the number 11-1, also 111 on my screen. That's a blessing. I'm just plugging this in so eventually I can move. Let me fully make sure I'm on CHIMAOGE's comments, even though I'm pretty confident I am. Bit of this angle today. Let's try something new. Anyway, again, thank you to all the returning people joining me. For the new people, let me give you 4 things to help you understand me better. First, my government name is Chimoge Chijioke Ibe. Second, my matrilineal village is Ebem Ohafia. Third, the village that I use as a reference point for my patrilineage is Oji Urata. And fourth, I am currently in Atlanta, Georgia. Let's go. All right, so I was inspired to do this live stream because just a couple hours ago, as I was scrolling here on YouTube, shout out to YouTube, I saw a video from someone I was following talking about crime statistics in a way that they'd done before, but it was just more extreme than usual, and it was kind of sloppy. And I've seen this a lot. And it's not just when talking about one particular type of crime. I've seen people in general do it when talking about all sorts of crimes. It's kind of the norm in our society. I'm going to say two things, then, as usual, I'm going to go into my whole, get my leg, my four main points together, and come back and present. And also, this time, I'm going to mix that in with doing my other work. Maybe I should always do that and then present the leg at the end. Yeah, that might be better. Anyway, let me put up a short. I don't think I've even unprivated all the shorts from yesterday's UGOJI. Check that one out. It was about the Shamar Moore incident. But anyway, um, I'll just say two things and then I'll move. One, and I actually say this with a lot of sympathy. Um, if you're affected by a crime personally, I think it's best to lead with that, and then also analyze the crime in general. And I'll leave it at that because I'm sympathetic to people who are victims of crime. Um, I mean, to an extent, we're all victims of crime, but like if you're really specifically a victim of something, like someone did something to you and that affects you, I'm sympathetic to that. But it's just best to telegraph that so that people know, because as with anything, that can affect, for better or worse, how you present stuff about the crime. I'll leave things at that. Let me move. Uh, all right. Two, and this is the second thing I'm saying. I'm thinking of how to say it. Let me walk for a bit more, actually. Two, and I figured out how to say it. Two, when analyzing crime, we have to keep in mind that it should not exist on two levels. One, on the level of nature, it's just not natural for crime to exist. There's no evidence that it should exist, and it doesn't make sense. Two, and I'm just leaving that at that. Two, on the level of the current conditions of society, it doesn't make sense for crime to exist to the extent that people feel like it can't go away. Okay, and I'm just leaving it at that. So do not analyze crime with the opposite assumption. Because even if you're trying to criticize the criminal, it can end up being just a lamentation instead of a call to action. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, let me go into my whole. I'll be here. I'm trying a new tactic here. I'll present everything at the end. All right. Once again, also check out my breaking news segment. I put up a short earlier, and then more specifically, I put up a live stream over on NWERE about a water issue here in Atlanta. Again, I just want to emphasize it looks like the issue will be resolved. At least things will be back to the current baseline at about 1 p.m. today. But right now there is an issue. There's a boil water advisory. Anyway, just putting that out there. All right. Let me actually start with the work because I know my opinion. Well, let's map out the opinion. Here we go. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with paper. Well, is that the best way to say it? I don't know. Anyway, I'm wondering if I can improve how I use it. That's a better way to say it. Abu Mamadio ha hiye ha Abu Mamadine kezenu nuwa Sansone bene ha Abu Mamadio ha hiye ha. Also, again, as always on UGOJI, the Black Eagle. Again, Ugo, Eagle. Look up Igbo word for eagle, IGBO word for eagle, and then Igbo word for black, OG, OJI. Can also be spelled ORJI. But anyway, UGOJI, the Black Eagle. That's the name of the segment. And for stylizing it in the title, I use one O, but you know, when you put them together, it's the same thing. Anyway, as always, I want to ask for personal patronage. So to patronize me, you can buy my art. That's one of the two things I want to highlight. Check that out on Patreon. And you can also donate. And the donation method I highlighted in the description of this live stream is Venmo. And my Venmo is at OZBang. Check it out. Thank you. Still here, folks. Here we go. Looking at something. Okay. Just going for a walk. I'm still here. Yeah, that's it. Anyway. San so neba. Abu mama dio he ha. Abu mama dio he ha. San so neba. Abu kala kani meri he ha. Kala kani meri he ha. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Kanye chico na fa. Nabe nabe kaka. Eke nabe ha. Eke nabe bu amadi yo ha. Na beke ha. Na beke inkeke abum na beke inkeke ha. Na beke inkeke ha ha. Na beke inkeke ha ha ha. Abum na beke inkeke no wa. Abum amadi yo he ha. Abum padre ke zenu wa. Abum padre mone sansone ba ha. Sansone ba. Eze bu amadi yo ha ha. Eze nwere ihe n'ụwa ha. Eze nwere ihe ha ha ha. Abụ m eze ma ọ na-emeze n'ụwa. Abụ m eze meze eze ha 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 ha. Eze meze eze ha ha. Eze meze eze n'ụwa. Eze meze eze gaga. Eze meze eze ha ha. Eze bụ ọmadi yo ha ha ha. Eze nwere ihe ha ha. Eze nwere ihe n'ụwa. Abu mama dio ha ha ha. Abu mama dio ha ha. Abu mama dio ye 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 ha. Abu mama ye ha ka ka ka. Abu mama ye wan ke da. Kamalo karana uwan. Abu mama dio ye ha. Ka abu mama dio he hey ha. Abu mama dio he hey ha. Abu mama dio he hey ha. Abu mama dio he hey ha ha ha. Anyway, still working and stuff. Ooh. I've outlined my work. Yeah, I've outlined my work. Let me now outline the opinion. And the point is, I want to outline here 4 big mistakes I see people making. So this is just to correct them. Enu bua madio ha 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 boom enu ka 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 abuma pare ke zenu nuaha abuma pare ke zenu ha abuma madio ha hiye 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 ha abuma pare ke zenu nuaha abuma pare ke zenu ha abuma madio ha niwe ha Abumamadio ha hip hip hurrah. Amadio ha Amadia ha Amadio ha Marei Henua. Amadio ha Marei Henua. The God of Thunder did something in the world. Amadio ha Marei Henua. Amadio ha Marei Henua. Hua hua ha ha. Abuma hua hua ha ha. Abuma madio ha ye ha ha. Abumo pareke zenu ha ha ha. Ha ha. Ha ha. Ha ha. Abum ha ha. Ha ha. Abum ha ha. Anamemaha. Amaramaha. Abum maha. Abum aha. 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 Abum afa. Abum afa. Abum ika. Abum ika. 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 Kala kanu mere ihe ha ha. Abu mama diu ha ni me o ha. Abu mama diu ha he hey ha. All right. First big mistake I see people making: generalizing off of one study. This is beyond my pet peeve. I'm almost tempted to set this apart from the leg and just scream it, but no, let's put it here. Let's put mistake one. I'll just say using only one study. I'll just leave it at that. Ooh, and then this will be aggression later. Hope these segments make sense to everyone. Please give me feedback. Still here, folks. Mistake 4 is I usually come up with the fourth thing after the first thing. People do not assess the study for mistakes because, again, no study is perfect. So, yeah. And then a lot of studies can be off. I'll say study/data set. Mistake 2, people do not interpret parts of the study properly. What do we say, or all of? What do you say, data set? Let me say correctly. And then mistake 3, I'll just say people do not people do not assess the goals of the study. That's important. Why was it even done? That'll affect everything. All right, so that's what I've come up with. I don't know how well you can see it, but anyway, read that in a second. Let me just fine-tune my work more. There's 3 areas of work I'm looking at. 2 are linked. One I have down. These are just some art pieces and shorts I have to put up. I think I want to think about how to do work off camera. Yeah, let me walk it through that. right, I'm almost ready to present the leg. I see 2 4s on my screen now. That's the number of the leg. 4 equals stability. But I want to look at my work a little bit. Oh, we passed the 70-minute mark. Happy New Year. Catch you boys there. Anyway, I'm still working on one thing, and then I'll present. Just thinking, folks. So let me reshare the stream, and then I'll present the main issue in its fullness, and then I'll talk about the other work I did, and then I'll be out of here. All right, let me go for another walk. All right, let me get into it. Should I move? No, I'm gonna stay here. All right, here's me holding the paper. So, what's the main topic? Calling in all my spiritual support again. I jundu need jundu. All my past lives and all my ancestors. Anyway, I've noticed that people are badly analyzing crime statistics and data. And this is something I've noticed for a long time. I saw one video that was doing this again. It just inspired me to make this live stream. I want to highlight 4 key mistakes that I see people making. 1. People are using only one study in their analysis. If you've only seen one study, just report on the study, as in say this is a study that has come out, more to follow. Do not talk about the entirety of the issue based upon that one study. Let me give you an example of this, and I'll use a crime statistics study. But I want to note this also. We have to interrogate, in line with point 4, the practice of studying crime in modern society. I'm not saying it shouldn't be studied. I'm just saying we need to look at it because it's being done in a flawed way, and I'll leave it at that. Anyway, I'll get more into that in the future, maybe at the end of this live. But we'll see how much energy I have. But here's an example. Person A finds a study about theft. They have 2 options. They can make a video, this is option 1, saying, I found this study about theft, here's what it says. And then at the end say, I have to do more research to see how true this study is, but this is what it says, I'm beginning my research. That's option 1. Option 2 is they can make a video saying, breaking news. This is the nature of theft in our society, and only cite that study. They should take option 1, not option 2. Let me leave it at that. But too many people are taking option 2. That makes no sense. There's no way one study will tell you everything, and I'll leave it at that. So that's mistake 1. The second mistake people are making when analyzing crime is that they are simply misinterpreting parts of the data set. Let me move. So again, I'm back now. I went for a little walk. Let me put up a short. Again, people are simply misinterpreting parts of the data sheet, and that's that. So that just speaks to people not being well. Of course, there'll be people out there who do it intentionally, but I'm not really talking about, and especially I'm not talking to those people. I'm talking about people who just unintentionally. I mean, I don't know everyone's intentions, but like, I don't know. I'll just say it like this. I'll look into it more, but I just get a feeling a lot of people, at least mostly unintentionally, misinterpret the data, and I'll leave it at that. So people just need to be well when they're doing this, and sometimes just do something else. You know, there are a lot of things you can do to highlight an issue. You don't necessarily have to look at studies. So yeah. Anyway, the third big mistake I see people making is that people do not assess the goal and or goals of the study or data set. What do I mean? You just look at a piece of paper with some writing on it and you take it at face value. That's not good. This is not me saying that studies are necessarily done with bad intentions. I'm just saying that if you don't know why the person and or people were doing the study, I mean really be people, even though one person probably heads it up. If you don't know why the people were doing the study, you don't know what they're really getting at. So one, you can misinterpret it, and two, you could just plainly misuse it. Even if you know what they're saying, you could just use it for the wrong reason. Let me try and come up with an example. Let me walk. All right, I have an example. So let's say that someone made a study about theft, and the intent of the study was to say that theft is caused by rain. This is just a random example, okay? And that might sound far fetched, but one, I mean, environmental causes can lead to behavioral changes to an extent. We don't know. Two, this is just a random example, okay? Anyway, so the study is made with the goal of proving that theft is caused by rain. So that filters through all the data points, for better or worse. Then you have someone who's talking about crime in public. They take the study at face value and they don't dig into it. They don't research who did the study. They don't read, um, you know, you know, um, just comments that have been made around the study by people who worked on it, whatever. So they have no idea what it was made or what it was made for, and they end up misusing it. Say there's a data point saying that theft goes up, when cars are driving more slowly. Okay. They end up using the study to say that, you know, I'm just gonna go into this again. I think cars should drive more slowly, but again, if you're gonna make that argument, you gotta come correct. So I'm just gonna go forward with this. Again, this is off the drop of a hat. So anyway, the person finds this theft study, and then they start pushing the idea based off of the study that um, people should not buy cars because it causes theft, right? When the goal of the study was actually to talk about how rain causes theft. That's deceptive. I hope you get what I'm saying. So it's like you've almost via long distance, really essentially via long distance, you've put words in the mouth of the person who gave you the data point. So it's not an honest interrogation. I hope you guys know what I mean. So you just need to look at what the goal of the study is. Even if you want to make, well, I don't know. I think doing that's kind of complicated. Let me walk. Let me think about that. Anyway, I'll just say this to add to that. Um, People can say things and not know the implications of what they're saying for sure, but using that statement is very complicated, and I'll leave it at that. So just people need to try their best to use people's words for their intention. The one real exception to this is when you're proving someone's a hypocrite. But I won't go into that. That one's kind of obvious. But if you just take some random person's side note that they didn't intend to support you and make it the centerpiece of your data set of support, that's not right, you know. Anyway, and at some point, just say the thing yourself. Just say I'm the originator of this point. Maybe do the study yourself, but don't go around using studies that don't have the intent behind them that you're using them for. I hope you know what I mean. Anyway, and my English is breaking down. You know my philosophy. The more you speak English, the more you destroy it. Anyway, let me move on. I'll fine tune that point for aggression. But let me just say it again. The third mistake I see people making is that they do not assess the goal of the study and or data set that they're using. So it just messes up their analysis. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, let me walk. Anyway, and the fourth and final error, I'm just going to get into that. I was thinking more about mistake 3. I just want to add this. A lot of times as I'm speaking, I notice an extra complication. That's really what's going on here, but I still stand by the overall point I'm making. Um, I think I might just say it like this. Let me go back to point 3, which is obviously that people are making the mistake of not assessing the goal of the study or data set that they're analyzing when they put it out. And this is about crime, right? You can use someone's point in a way they didn't intend, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a piece of information. It's just that is a weaker point. And again, if that um, if that study is part of a much larger body of work that's going in a different direction than what you're saying, um, you might even have to ask the question of whether or not the study itself is valid. Let me move. Okay. Okay. I'll just say this. If someone accidentally said something that supports something they weren't trying to say, when assessing that point, you have to take into account that they weren't actually trying to say that. And I'll leave it at that. So if you don't assess the goal of a study and then analyze it and talk about it in public, you didn't do well. And I'll just leave it at that. At the very least, you have to note, hey, I don't know what the goal of this study was, but this is what I'm inferring, and just note it's kind of a weak point. Because at the end of the day, you weren't there when they were doing the study. You don't know everything that went into it. So you just have to acknowledge your limitations. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, let me move on. The fourth mistake people are making is that they're not assessing the study and or data set for errors. And I'll leave it at that. Literally, you just need to look over it and be like, are there any errors here? Like this is related to mistake 2, but it's not exactly the same. When I'm talking about people not interpreting parts of the data set correctly, I mean something like they misread it. That kind of thing. Mistake 4 is when there's actually a flaw in the methodology of the study. Like, for example, you know, say they're doing another study about theft. they interview, um, 200 people about thefts in their neighborhood, but then they only analyze the responses of 100. That's an error in the study, and that affects everything. And they just didn't catch that before they put it out and before they finished their study. Whatever. This is an example. If you don't look at that error, you won't take it into account properly in your analysis. Anyway, those are my points. Let me put them here. So I hope you can see them. Let me just sum them up again. Mistake 1, people are using only one study. This is when people are badly analyzing crime statistics. Mistake 2, people are not interpreting parts or all of their data sets correctly. Mistake 3, people are not assessing the goals of their study and data sets. Because part of it, I think, sometimes I get mixed up. I think also what I'm really trying to say with mistake 3 is people don't know how they come off when they're speaking about certain data sets. Because other people might get implications you don't. So, if, say, the guy who's studying the relationship between theft and rain is trying to say we need to, be more vigilant, about theft when it's raining, and then you're going on trying to prove that we need to, put less cars on the street to prevent theft, and say his point about rain is controversial, you could end up upsetting a bunch of people you don't know what's going on, right? And also, you can end up supporting something you don't understand, which is the biggest thing I'm trying to say. Say you actually don't support being more on guard when there's rain, and you end up supporting that. So you end up just doing nonsense. And say his overall point is wrong. So you just missed something. Anyway, then mistake 4 that people are making when they're badly analyzing crime stats. People are not assessing the studies they're looking at for errors. So they're just reading out studies that have errors in them. I've noticed that. Anyway, those are things to keep in mind. I'll represent that as part of an aggression segment in the future. Let me talk quickly about the other work I was doing, and then I'll be out of here. I've been on here for over 2 hours. Thank you for watching. Anyway, both now and in the future. Anyway, so first, I just took down, just for note keeping, and I'll show it to you here, some live streams along with just one random other thing that I still have to make art pieces and or shorts for, okay? So it's this one, this current live stream, ironically, the Sharon Moore live stream, the breaking news live stream on Inquiry about the boil water advisor in Atlanta, and then the Cheyenne Bryant live stream. I have to put up a short for that one. And then there's another art piece I made for UALMA. Check that out, and also check out UALMA, my nature network. I have a new banner up there. The banner was made in part from a screenshot from that art piece. And then I have another art piece, because that art piece is a video art piece on Inquiry, and then I have a still shot from that as an art piece up here on CHIMAOGE's comments. Check that out on Patreon. I still have to put up the shorts for that one too, just to advertise it. Anyway, at least the short for the still image art on CHIMAOGE's comments. Yeah. So yeah, I have to do that. So that was just one thing. I'm just putting that down, so that I don't lose track of things. Then 2, I was just taking note of, I did this the other day, but I was just reminding myself of taking note of some projects I'm currently working on. So there's 2 videos. One, Neptune is a Madioha, the Hand of Heaven. That'll be going up here on CHIMAOGE's comments. I'm almost done with it, at least kind of. I need to add in music and art, but like the bulk of it's done. I just need to get in the mind space to do it. 2, there's a video. This one's really almost done, really, because I don't have to add in background sounds. because it won't really be music. There won't be background music. It'll just be vocals for the Neptune is a Madioha one. But anyway, the second video is going to go up on MAOGE. It's called I Want to Talk More About Nature. Almost done with that. The third thing I got to do, I called it a Kwensama. I need, I need to add something else so I remember exactly what it is. Okay, no, I remember it is. I remember what it is. I'm also gonna call it Inso Ihan. I'll explain what that is, but basically, any video I make, there's gonna be offshoot videos that'll end up on this network. There's gonna be 4 types. I need to figure them all out. The one type you've already seen is a Kwensama, right? Which is basically art reviews. Check out my Kwensama videos I've already had. I've made 2 long form pre-recorded videos, and then I have shorts, and then there's going to be others. I've thought of some others. Any category of stuff I come up with, I want to make 4. It just feels good to me. And then the 4th category is just some behind the scenes and or unrecorded stuff I have to come up with. Really, one which I'm going to get into, I've done it now. I just have to start enacting it. I came up with, let me just note I've done it actually. Yay. I have to come up with, well, I have come up with, and I'll present that in a second, writing templates for the descriptions of different videos, different types of videos. Then there's a special thing I got to do that you'll find out about later. It's a secret. The third thing is I got to come up with writing templates for articles that I'm going to publish. And then the 4th one is I have some articles I have to publish, and I have something I have to put up. Anyway, there's that. And then here are those templates. So these are 4 types of videos I make. Here are the templates for them. And you know what? I think I'm going to do a Hand of God. I'm definitely going to do a Hand of God live stream talking about mistake 3, which is where people don't assess the goal of their of the studies they're using. Cuz I don't know. I feel like there's more to say about this. I'll leave it at that. So I'm going to put a reminder of that here, and you'll see that later. Yeah, cuz the more I think about this, the more I get worried about certain things. Anyway, here are the 4 types of videos. Animal videos, that's category 1. Category 2 is shorts. Category 3 is pre-recorded and well-edited long videos. And category 4 is pre-recorded non-animal raw clips. Okay. So for category 4, for the first category, which is the base of all of them, the description write-up has 4 parts. 1, the greeting. 2, where I give 2 pieces of info about myself, and it'll be different every video. 3, a part where I describe the contents of the video. And 4, where I give out business info, like say, where I tell the audience what art pieces they can buy and how they can donate, things like that. And then at the end, I'll just say thank you, goodbye, right? For shorts, it'll have all of those, but then I'll add on a portion where I give, all of my name information, right? Let me think about that for a second. I think it's just because on the animal videos, I don't want to overemphasize myself, because at the end of the day, I'm presenting people who are not me, because animals are people who are not me, and they're not even people I easily understand because they're outside of my category of life, right? They're not human beings anyway. But shorts is starting off where, okay, I really want to emphasize myself. Then for the category 3, the third category, the pre-recorded and well-edited videos, right? What I call atamatu amadioha. I'm gonna do more Hand of Gods talking about these different categories of content. But anyway, for those kind of videos, it'll be like the shorts, but then adding on a group of stuff I call the hand of God. What is that basically? It's stuff you've seen before. One, I'll give out a hand of God, as in a relevant piece of metaphysical information. Two, a bonus piece of information, a grace. And then three, and it's really a 3 and 4 because it's two things. It's going to be a double question. So that'll be added on there just for funsies. And then for the raw clips, it'll be adding on to what, because the idea is that each going clockwise, each video type gets more stuff in the write-up. And I'm doing the most to contextualize the raw clips because those are the ones that have the most potential to go haywire. And I'll just put it like that. Because an animal raw clip is unedited, but because you know, we're dealing with other categories of life, there's a limit to the degree to which they can be misinterpreted in a way that is harmful to us. And I'll leave it at that, right? Then shorts, I'm talking, I can contextualize it, and then I can make another short, contextualize it. And it's a short video, so the amount of damage it can do is relatively limited. Okay. Pre-recorded and well-edited long videos. That's a full explanation. And then I can just keep talking. The raw clips are really gonna be stuff that's in the works. Like, my goal is now, anytime I make a raw clip that's intended to be, well, let me say it like this. Anytime I'm making a pre-recorded, well-edited video, I'm gonna publish at least all of the long raw clips. So say whenever I have a segment where I'm talking about the heart of the issue, that raw clip will go up as soon as it's made, just so that the idea is out. Because I go kind of crazy when I'm holding on to a raw clip, especially when the overall idea is not out. But anyway, those can be most heavily misinterpreted because say the overall video is going to be 20 minutes. If I put out a 6-minute raw clip, people don't have the full context, right? Especially because there's no art. And then obviously, you know I'm different, but I'm not another category of life, so people can understand me. But when people can understand you, they can also misunderstand you at a great degree. Anyway, whole point is I'm adding most of that just to mitigate that potential. So what I'm adding on is an extended prayer for the issue at hand, just for goodwill, and also hopefully when people read the prayer, they'll understand more what I'm getting at. Anyway, and then just so you know, if you don't remember from me saying this previously, my model for live streams for their description, I just go in there in the moment, I just do it, even if it's kind of bootleg, whatever. And it's short. I just make it as short as possible. Anyway, so that's all for today. Just advice, and I'll go into this more because really this will end up on a full hand of God itself. But for let me just sum up my advice overall on this issue. One, do have grace when looking, be critical, but still have grace when looking at other people's assessments of crime statistics, because it is difficult. But then two, if you're doing it yourself, just make sure that one, you're feeling as well as you could possibly feel when you're doing that. I hope you know what I mean. As long as there's crime, no one's at our peak, but just look at your baseline health, look at the baseline standard of health and overall well-being necessary to talk about this stuff. Make sure you're at least at that baseline or above, and then assess where you are day to day, and just make sure you're doing well when you talk about this stuff, right? And then if you don't feel well enough or whatever to talk about this stuff, just talk about something else. And more specifically, you don't necessarily have to analyze statistic. You can give a personal testimony, that's powerful. And then you can also just do something else. There's not just one thing. And I'll leave it at that. Because I think a lot of people have been indoctrinated into this culture of the only way to prove a point is to talk about a study. That's just not true. And let me say it a better way, the only way to affect a change. I think a lot of people have been indoctrinated into the idea that the only way to affect change is to talk about studies. That's just not true. Let me walk actually. Madio ha he hey ha ha. Madio he hey ha ha. Anyway, thank you very much, guys. Once again, CHIMAOGE here. Please patronize my business. Again, once again, you can buy my art. That's on Patreon, and you can also donate. The donation method I've highlighted is Venmo. And again, make sure you're well and make sure you're doing stuff that makes you happy. If you want to do something to get rid of crime in this world, just know that there are many options, okay? And then if you choose to exercise the option of assessing a study, make sure you don't make the mistakes I've highlighted. Thank you very much. Check out my other stuff as well and see you next time.